Welcome back to Families Through Surrogacy. Today, we're going to be diving into the world of surrogacy law in Australia. And things are changing pretty fast, so we're here to help you navigate this new landscape.
Yeah, it's a really dynamic time. We've got major developments at both the state and national levels with the recent changes in New South Wales, and the Australian Law Reform Commission conducting a major review of surrogacy laws across the country.
Okay, let's start with the current situation. I know that Australia's surrogacy laws are often described as a patchwork. Can you explain what that means
Yeah.
for families who are considering surrogacy?
Sure. So essentially, each state and territory in Australia has its own unique set of rules governing surrogacy. So you can imagine a family in Queensland wanting to use a surrogate in Victoria. The child is born. But because Queensland law doesn't automatically recognize the intended parents, they face a legal battle to secure their parental rights. And this inconsistency creates a logistical and emotional nightmare.
That sounds incredibly stressful. It must make things even more challenging for families considering interstate or international surrogacy arrangements.
Absolutely. The lack of uniformity creates confusion and uncertainty. For instance, a family might move from one state to another, only to find that their legal parentage is no longer recognized. And this can have huge implications for things like healthcare, education, and even inheritance rights for the child.
So let's talk about New South Wales shaking things up. With the Equality Act, which passed in October of 2023. This seems like a massive step forward. What exactly did this act change?
Yeah, the Equality Act is groundbreaking because it allows parents who used international surrogacy to apply for parentage orders in New South Wales. And before this, families who pursued surrogacy overseas often found themselves in legal limbo when they returned home. Now they have a pathway to secure their legal rights as parents through the New South Wales Supreme Court.
So it seems like this could have major ripple effects across Australia. Do you think that this could be a catalyst for other states and territories to follow suit?
Well, it's certainly setting an interesting precedent. We might see a domino effect where other states feel pressure to adopt similar legislation to remain competitive, so to speak, in the realm of surrogacy. On the other hand, this could also lead to more Australians opting for international surrogacy if their own states don't offer the same legal protections. It will be interesting to see how it all plays out.
It definitely raises a lot of questions. Now let's shift gears to the national level. The Australian Law Reform Commission, or the ALRC, has taken on a massive undertaking, reviewing surrogacy laws across the country. So what are some of the core issues that they're tackling?
Well, the ALRC is looking at everything, from domestic to international surrogacy arrangements. One key area is reducing barriers to domestic altruistic surrogacy. Currently, the process can be quite complex and restrictive, so they're exploring ways to streamline it, making it easier for people to engage in surrogacy.
And making domestic surrogacy more accessible could potentially decrease the need for Australians to seek surrogacy arrangements overseas, which can sometimes be riskier due to varying legal and ethical standards.
In other countries, right?
That's precisely the hope. By simplifying domestic surrogacy, they aim to make it a more viable option for Australians, potentially minimizing the reliance on international arrangements, where the legal framework and support systems might be less robust. They're also focusing on recognizing legal parentage for children born overseas through surrogacy and ensuring access to information for children born through surrogacy so they can understand their origins.
So it sounds like the ALRC is aiming for a more holistic approach, considering the needs of everyone involved, the intended parents, the surrogates, and of course the children. A key objective of the review is to create a system that's not just legally sound, but also ethically sound, one that centers the well-being of all parties involved in the surrogacy process.
Yeah, it really highlights the need to move away from this idea of surrogacy as purely transactional and towards a model that recognizes the profound emotional and relational aspects involved.
It's not just about contracts and legalities. It's about the creation of families and the lifelong bonds that are formed. So with all these potential changes on the horizon, what can our listeners do to make their voices heard, contribute to this reform process?
Well, it's a crucial time to be engaged. The ALRC is actively seeking input from the public, and this feedback will play a significant role in shaping their recommendations. Don't underestimate the power of personal stories. Sharing your experiences with the ALRC, whether you're an intended parent, a surrogate, or even a child born through surrogacy, can provide invaluable insights. So it's about making sure that the lived realities of surrogacy inform the legal framework right. These personal narratives can be incredibly powerful in illustrating the complexities and nuances that might be missed in purely legal or academic discussions.
Exactly. And it's not just about engaging with the ALRC. You can connect with advocacy groups and organizations that are working tirelessly to support surrogates and intended parents. They often have resources and information on how to get involved in the reform process.
And of course, we can't forget the importance of raising awareness within our own communities. Sometimes just talking to friends and family about surrogacy, sharing information and dispelling common myths can be a huge step towards creating a more informed and accepting society.
Absolutely. Breaking down the stigma often starts with open and honest conversations. We need to normalize discussions about surrogacy and recognize it as a legitimate and valuable pathway to parenthood.
Okay, so we focused a lot on the legal and ethical aspects, but I think it's equally important to address the emotional side of surrogacy. This is a deeply personal and often challenging journey for everyone involved.
It's true. Surrogacy is not for the faint of heart. There are emotional highs and lows, moments of joy and moments of frustration. So having a strong support system is crucial, whether it's through family, friend support groups, or therapists.
Especially for intended parents, who are often navigating a roller coaster of emotions, from the excitement of starting a family to the anxieties that can come with the complexities of surrogacy arrangements.
And for surrogates, the emotional labor involved is significant. They are literally carrying another person's child, and that comes with a unique set of physical and emotional challenges that need to be acknowledged and supported.
It's such a profound act of generosity and selflessness. And I think sometimes we overlook the emotional toll it can take. Finding a community of people who understand what you're going through, who can empathize with your joys and anxieties, can make all the difference.
It's about creating a space where people feel seen, heard, and validated in their experiences. It's also about recognizing that surrogacy isn't a one-size-fits-all experience. Everyone's journey is unique, and their emotional needs will vary accordingly.
Absolutely. So for our listeners who are considering surrogacy, what practical advice would you offer? What are some key things to keep in mind as they embark on this journey?
Well, first and foremost, seek legal advice early on. It's crucial to understand the specific laws in your state or territory and how they apply to your situation. A good lawyer specializing in surrogacy can guide you through the legal complexities and protect your rights.
I think this brings us back to the importance of support networks, whether it's through online forums, support groups, or even individual counseling. Having a space to share experiences, ask questions, and seek advice can be invaluable.
It's about recognizing that you don't have to go through this alone. There's a whole community of people who have walked this path before you, and they're often willing to offer support and guidance.
And with the ALRC review underway, it feels like we're at a real turning point for surrogacy in Australia. There's a sense of momentum building, a push towards a more just and equitable system for everyone. This has been an incredibly enlightening conversation. It's amazing to see the progress being made and the passion driving this movement forward. Before we wrap up, I want to turn it back to our listeners for a moment. What has resonated most with you as we've explored this evolving landscape of surrogacy law in Australia?
I think what stands out to me is the growing recognition that we need to move beyond the purely transactional view of surrogacy. The ALRC's focus on ethical considerations, the emphasis on support systems, and the push for greater uniformity in laws all point towards a more holistic and humane approach.
Yeah, it's about recognizing the human element at the heart of surrogacy, the emotional complexities, the deep bonds that are formed, and the lifelong impact it has on everyone involved.
Absolutely. And it's about ensuring that the legal framework reflects that understanding, moving away from a purely contractual approach to one that prioritizes the well-being of all parties, particularly the child.
This has been an incredibly insightful conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today.
It's been my pleasure. It's inspiring to witness the progress being made and the collective efforts to create a more supportive and inclusive environment for families formed through surrogacy.
And to our listeners, we hope this deep dive has provided you with a clearer understanding of the changing landscape of surrogacy law in Australia. It's a complex and evolving field, but by staying informed, engaging in these conversations, and advocating for the changes we believe in, we can help shape a future where surrogacy is recognized and respected as a valid and valuable pathway to parenthood.
Yeah, and if we connect this to the bigger picture, it's about creating a society that embraces diverse family structures and celebrates the many ways families are created.
Beautifully said. Remember, this conversation doesn't end here. We encourage you to continue exploring this topic, to connect with others who are navigating the world of surrogacy, and to lend your voice to the ongoing efforts for reform. And don't forget to subscribe to Families Through Surrogacy on Spotify and YouTube for new episodes every Wednesday. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok for more tips, tricks, and live updates on international surrogacy. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep those conversations going.